It's nighttime in the Antiverse, and the ants of Avista are awake and ever ready, as usual, ascending up the great tree of wisdom to collect food for the colony. These ants, known as the Bobbleheads, are climbing to the colony's primary source of sugar, the ant cows. These white fuzzy mealybugs, which suck up sap from the tree, excrete honeydew, a precious golden syrup from the gods, to the Bobbleheads. And look, these ants are about to drink this honeydew now. Wait for it. The mealybug signals the excretion, and there, a tasty blob of sweet goodness. We saw this ant mealybug mutualism come together in the last episode on the Bobbleheads and their floating ant island known as Avista. But today, Avista is about to become a lot bigger. The Bobbleheads have no idea they're about to discover that the world is much bigger than the only ancestral floating island they've ever known. The Great Bridge is about to be set in place, and I can't wait for their reaction to the new world, which awaits to be claimed new Bobblehead territory. Ladies and gents, welcome to the Antiverse and the AntsCanada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. AC family, if there's one thing we've seen on this channel, it's that some of the most epic scenes we've ever captured involve ants moving into new territory. And this week's episode is no exception. My ultimate plans of expanding the floating island of Avista, this open concept island ant farm, are about to become a reality, as we add the first extension to what I am hoping will eventually be the first of multiple island add-ons, making Avista an impressive archipelago of connected floating islands. Keep on watching until the end for the big move and some pretty heart-stopping scenes. The island of Avista and its inhabitants have truly flourished beyond expectation. Take the Great Tree of Wisdom, for instance, with its new shoots extending high above the island, with rich green leaves bursting from every branch and twig. I never anticipated this bonsai Japanese banyan tree would do so well so quickly. It's a great thing the tree is healthy, because as you know, on Avista, it brings life and nourishes the mealybugs, who go on to produce a reliable sugar source for the ants. The honeydew is collected in vats within the ants' bodies, known as their crops, and then taken home to feed to the rest of the family in the nest. Another way in which the tree brings life to the Avistans can be seen below ground. You could see that the Great Tree of Wisdom's sacred roots have penetrated every area of the soil now, sucking up moisture, but with it, the droppings and waste that the ants and resident soil creatures leave behind. The tree keeps the soil clean for the ants and soil creatures. But what's even more interesting than that is that the creatures also nourish the tree, thereby closing the entire beautiful circle of life and interdependence on this awesome ant island we've crafted. In fact, the island is so self-sufficient, I only need to do 3 things to maintain the island. First, to control the shape of the tree so it doesn't just grow in all directions, I use wire braces to guide the branches where to grow, as this banyan tree naturally will climb and attach to other trees and natural landmarks in the wild as it grows, so it doesn't hurt it in any way. Second, I add water. Now AC family, brace yourselves, as we're about to have a look at the Bobbleheads emerging. As soon as water trickles down into the soils, the Bobbleheads instantly come rushing out, carrying their young to dry areas. Look at them. The ants are carrying eggs, larvae, and pupae up into the tree where they know it's driest. These daily watering sessions have been quite fundamental, as it also gives me a chance to take a better look at the ant colony and assess their progress. And speaking of which, I am happy to inform you, AC family, that the Bobbleheads are no longer as mite-infested as they used to be. It's great seeing the Bobbleheads doing so well. And look at that incredible brood. Their 4 queens must be doing so well down in the soil. Which brings me to the last maintenance activity for the upkeep of Avista, and that is the provision of protein. All this healthy brood has definitely been the result of feeding the Bobbleheads a steady supply of insects. Let's remove this piece of roach exoskeleton, and in its place, add a baby cockroach. Watch as the Bobblehead horde discovers this new heaven-sent morsel. One ant starts to feed from the pre-crushed cockroach, while another starts laying down pheromones to let nearby ants know about the roach. And in no time, a crowd of ants get the message. Here comes the horde. The ants swarm the roach. And oh, look, a major also appears to help out, with her head just packed with ant muscle. The ants are incredibly fast and strong, and begin to pull the roach to take it to the nearest nest entrance. Look at that amazing cooperation. Imagine if we were those ants. This would be like us carrying a rhinoceros home to eat. I love watching the ants work together every time I drop food onto Avista territory. The roach disappears as they stuff it into one of the nest holes. Success. But I knew the ultimate day would come when this explosive super colony would grow too big for this single island. I told myself when the ant colony would show signs of needing more space to live, I would then make plans to expand Avista territory. AC family, that day has come. I'm starting to see more and more ants wandering the dead space below the island. The hostile Avista netherworlds, which are much too dry and barren for the ants to frequent often, but I now see them scouting the space, assumingly looking for new territory into which to expand. I also see more and more ants wandering the island's edge platform, in search of something I can only assume is new territory. AC family, I think it's time to give the Bobbleheads here what they need and deserve. I can't wait to show you what I have planned. I waited for sundown to make the grand installment. A few ants covering the night shift were crawling around the premises, performing various random tasks. Avista, at this time, was quiet and still, but it wouldn't be long before the big news would reach the island's inhabitants. AC family, little do they know that beyond the great chasm lies a second floating island, waiting for them to conquer it. On a completely different but neighboring continental shelf, this new island, floating above a crystal disc, houses another ornamental tree, cute and towering. Its paddle-shaped leaves spreading exponentially into the skies, flourishing from a single slender trunk. I have named this tree the Tree of Counsel. The Tree of Counsel grows from rich virgin soils, adorned by liverworts and patches of moss. I think the Bobbleheads will really like these. Also on the island is a red rock, which leans against the Tree of Counsel. I do expect the ants to climb this tree as well, and we'll see if mealybugs end up on it one day. I just love the winding roots from this tree. It makes it look so mystic. The entire island sits atop this foundational container, which I've decided to not fill to the top with soil this time, just so we could get a better look at roots descending into the soils, as well as ants nesting in this area. The container sits in a glass soup bowl lid, whose walls are covered in baby powder, to keep the ants from escaping this open concept space. And now to address what may be your next question, which is, how on earth were we going to connect these two distant islands together? Well, AC family, my plan was to install a bridge. But the distance between these two islands was quite considerable. I knew that whatever bridge I decided to use, it needed to be somewhat wide and easily grippable by the ants. because I didn't want the ants falling into the grand chasm between the two islands. And so, AC family, after some careful searching, I finally found the perfect bridge. This winding driftwood piece. I found this piece to be the best choice for a bridge because it had many grooves, so clinging onto the bridge would be easy for the ants as they traveled across it. I would fix the bridge from this edge of the main island to this edge of the new island. Alright, AC family, are you ready for this? The time has come to give the Bobbleheads their new island. Let's do this. I set the bridge in place. What was cool was that the bridge actually had 2 docking points on the main island, which met somewhere up the path, and winded its way up and over the Grand Chasm and onto the edge of the new island. By the way, in case you were wondering what lay at the bottom of the Grand Chasm, well, any ants that did have the misfortune of falling would land into utter, empty oblivion, aka a garbage can. Hey, it's as good as oblivion for ants, okay? Either way, let's hope they don't fall off this epic bridge on their way to the new island. By the way, guys, start thinking of some names for this new island, and let me know in the comments, as we now watch the first explorers set foot on it. And look here, AC family, it wasn't long before an unsuspecting ant discovered this new wooden artifact, one of the docking points to our bridge, which appeared out of nowhere. Hey, this is new. I don't remember this being here. The ant climbed the wooden surface of the bridge, inspecting the area. When she finally decided that this was worth informing the colony about, she scurried her way back to the nest to spill the tea. Meanwhile, on the other side, the tea had long been served, and scouts were already checking out the alleged reports of this foreign landmark. They too climbed up the bridge to see where this land bridge led to. The island lay patiently waiting to welcome its new inhabitants. And AC family, here they come! Oh, how I love watching this part! The ants millimetered their way closer and closer to the new island. Then, alas, the ants set foot on the new virgin territories. They instantly began exploring the island eagerly, smelling and tasting the liverworts, inspecting the moss. Considering the main island was all they knew, the ants were extra thrilled to head back to the colony to deliver the news that green pastures lay ahead at the end of this wooden bridge. By now, more and more ants have learned about the bridge, and we're also coming to check things out. And get this! Every time an ant returns to her nest with some interesting find, she lays down a pheromone trail on the way back, so the ants traveling to the said find know where to go. And what a find it's turned out to be! It seems the ants love the taste of the liverwort and mosses. I could see the ants licking the plants. Interesting. I wonder if they're eating something off its surface. The excitement of this new island discovery was clearly kicking up a notch. The traffic of ants traveled both ways, with ants traveling to the island to check things out, and ants returning to the colony on the main island to reinforce the pheromone trail and recruit other ants to explore the new lands. I was super pleased to see that no ants were falling off the bridge, down the chasm, into oblivion. They were quite proficient at traversing the bridge. I also found it quite interesting to see that the ants were bringing back finds from the new island to their nest on the main island. What is that white thing she's carrying there? Who knows? I actually wasn't sure what the ants had in mind for this island, but I couldn't wait to see what they would collectively decide the island would be used for. Would they use it as a satellite nest? Perhaps start transporting some of the brood across this bridge into the new lands? Would they just treat it as a site for collection of resources like soil and nesting materials? Perhaps use the new island as feeding grounds for the colony, somewhere away from the main nest? Or maybe they would transplant some of their ant cows to the Tree of Council, a new host plant which might offer a new flavor of honeydew. Whatever they ultimately decide, I couldn't wait to find out. I came back to check on the ants in the wee hours of the night. The ants were still traveling to and from the new island. I mean, why wouldn't they? This was a big deal. New territory, new soils into which they could expand their growing super colony, new food and materials to collect. I was happy to see that the ants seemed happy with their new island. One of the things I did notice was that many of the ants were trapped in the area below, having been covered with baby powder, so they couldn't crawl back up. So I placed a rescue stick here to help the ants return to the island safely. And this stick was then later moved to the back area of the island, where it is better hidden. I allowed the ants to continue doing their thing overnight and see how they were doing the next morning. By morning, traffic was still steady as usual, but there were still no signs that the colony had decided to move in to the new island. I watered the main island, and as usual, the ants came pouring out of their holes, carrying the brood up into the tree. It seems the Bobbleheads were not ready to move their colony to the new island just yet. I was okay with this. I wanted to respect the colony's decision and simply wait patiently to see what the colony ultimately decides to use the new island for. I did see ants up, scouting the Tree of Council, so perhaps they were planning on establishing a herd of ant cows here in the future. I was also happy to see that no ants had fallen into oblivion overnight, a good sign that our choice of bridge was a great choice. And as is AC tradition, it was time to offer the Bobbleheads a housewarming gift. I placed in a piece of chopped cockroach, along with a head and a couple legs. It didn't take long for the ants to discover it. And what happened next, AC family, blew me away. It hadn't even been 30 seconds before a rush of ants came pouring in from the bridge. And not just a few ants, droves of ants. I couldn't believe how quickly news of the food spread to the main island. Check them out. And hey, is that what I think it is? Yes, the ants were bringing in brood to the new island. Wow, I guess the chopped roach was all that was needed to convince the ants to try moving in a few young. Alright. But what's even more cool, AC family, was watching the ants attempt to bring the food back home. They first began to transport a leg back, and my heart stopped every time the food item was literally dangling from their jaws at the bottom of the driftwood upside down. Then they moved out the head, again with heart-stopping, hanging moments. Then the second leg. But then when it came to the large chopped roach body, I wondered if the ants were going to chop up the meat on site, or attempt the impossible, and carry the huge juggernaut piece back home across the bridge. And AC family, they wouldn't be ants if they didn't dare to achieve the unthinkable, right? No way. Yes. To my utter surprise, the ants decided to bring the entire piece back they carried the massive piece of roach meat onto the bridge. And suddenly, the roach was just hanging. My heart stopped as I watched them with bated breath as the ants pulled and tugged the huge elephantine chunk of roach meat up to the top of the wood. I believe there were several heart-stopping moments as they carried the roach down the long stretch of driftwood. But in the end, the ants managed to get the huge piece of food safely onto terra firma on main island grounds. This new setup was pretty fascinating, and of course, a first one for me. What do you guys think of this new island installment? If they ever move in and we require a third island, I'll have to do some major space planning. In the meantime, I will continue to follow the progress of the new Avista, Kingdom of the Bobbleheads. As I watched the ants continue to travel back and forth between the two floating islands, something funny came to me. And that is, it seems you can lead ants to soil, but you can't make them dig. Unless, of course, you bribe them with fresh roach guts. Alright, the Bobbleheads have some new territory, and I will update you on this colony as soon as there are any advancements. I secretly hope they start farming mealybugs on this new island. So to keep up with this and our other epic ant colonies, hit that subscribe button and bell icon now so you don't miss out on the continuing ant stories of the Antiverse. And hit the like button every single time, including now. If you're new to the channel and want to catch up on all your AntsCanada lore, feel free to binge watch this complete storyline playlist here, which traces the origins of all the ant colonies of the Ant Room, so you can follow their stories and better appreciate how these ant kingdoms came to be and why we love them so much. AC Inner Colony, I have left a hidden cookie for you here if you would just like to watch extended play footage of the Bobbleheads carrying the pieces of roach across the bridge to the main island. Talk about satisfying to just sit and watch how the ants maneuver such huge pieces of food across a challenging surface. And before we proceed to the AC question of the week, I'd like to plug my daily vlogging channel, Daily Vlogs, which have become a full-out bird dad channel, as I am now raising a young African grey parrot. If you love birds, I'd love for you to meet my new cute little bird. She's got quite the personality, and I believe she's finally begun to speak her first words. So do check her out and subscribe to the vlogs. And now it's time for the AC question of the week. Last week we asked, why is it important for an ant farm to have a moisture gradient? Congratulations to Random Gamer, who correctly answered, they can hydro-regulate and choose where to be based on preference. Congratulations, Random Gamer, you just won a free ebook handbook from our shop. In this week's AC question of the week, we ask, name one of the 3 things needed to be done to maintain the main island of Avista. Leave your answer in the comment section, and you could also win a free ebook handbook from our shop. Hope you can subscribe to the channel as we upload every Saturday at 8 AM Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video to help us keep making more. It's Ant Love forever.